most hurtful thing you've overheard about yourself by accident? Story 1. My wife had a falling out with some friends of mine that she met through me. We had known them a long time, but I had known them for much longer. I was upset with her one night because they were always asking why she never came around anymore, but she absolutely refused to see them. I always thought it was because of this little side business project they went into together that didn't work out. So I'm driving my wife somewhere, and I just start getting upset with her that she won't make up with them and move past it like they did. And it sucks that she never comes with when I go over there. So she finally broke and told me the truth. Every time she went over there without me, they would talk about me, putting down my personality, my humor, and much more. I guess they thought she would be okay with it, like a joking, haha, my husband can be such a insert something, right? But she wasn't okay with it. She's not a confrontational person, so she never really spoke up, but she was disgusted by the way they spoke about me behind my back and refused to have anything to do with them. She had been letting me think it was all her fault, and she took it because she knew the truth would hurt my feelings. And it did. My wife was not manipulating me. She's not a manipulative person, and she's certainly not the type to try and control who I do and do not see. I know these people, and I know they're capable of this, even though they're otherwise generally good people with faults. Everyone has faults. Irks me a bit that there are so many cynics out there. Have a good holiday, regardless. Story 2. Went out to a bar with some friends for a birthday party for my ex-girlfriend. She really messed me up when she left me, like really bad. But I was trying to be nice since she invited me, so I figured I'd go out and be there for a drink or two. So, a mutual friend who had been broken up with a few days before and was there. So as I made the rounds, I talked to her and tried to do whatever I could to let her know it would be okay. I'm no therapist, but I did my best, you know? I knew what a bad breakup felt like, as I was also going through one, so I tried to help. Anyways, after I left the table, I overheard her talking to my ex at the bar about me trying to give her advice, and she said, "Well, nobody has ever loved him, so what does he know about any of this?" And they started laughing. Don't think they know I heard, but I grabbed my coat immediately and took a long walk home. I don't need people like that in my life. Haven't willingly seen either of them since. Edit. What an amazing surprise to wake up to this morning. Thank you all for the wonderful words of encouragement and support, and the medals. Truly my greatest gift this year. I read every comment. Life is a learning experience. Thank you for sharing it with me. Merry Christmas. Story 3. When I was in middle school art class, something funny happened and I let out a loud laugh. I then overheard one of my childhood best friends whisper to another person, "God, I hate Trader 2488's laugh." I immediately looked at him and said, "What?" And he just looked down at the table like he didn't hear me. This actually made me change my laugh. It's completely different from what it used to be. Edit. Well, Jesus Christ, that was quite the Christmas surprise, haha. I forgot about this comment and just saw how many upvotes it has. Story 4. My grandparents whispering at the table about how terrible I am and how I'm a real mess. Then acted all normal and cozy to me. I was 14. Edit. Holy, this blew up overnight. By far my highest rated comment. Kinda sad. Thanks for the support, everyone, and Merry Christmas. Story 5. I was copied into an email conversation where about 10 messages earlier, one of my employees had described me as an idiot and suggested to the recipients that they didn't get me involved in the situation they were discussing. I'd always thought we got on well, and it knocked my confidence. Edit. Thanks for all the replies and messages. Some of you are really nice. I've got much thicker skin now, but this happened many years ago when I was quite new to management. I eventually talked with the lady who sent the email, and she was extremely embarrassed and apologetic. Then, when we talked more, it came out that one of her colleagues was spreading about me, and she hadn't questioned what was being said. It took months to get rid of the real problem causer. This wasn't in the USA. It's difficult to fire people where I am. And the real confidence crusher was knowing that he was poisoning the well that whole time. Things were much better once he was gone. Story 6. My dad saying he expected my twin sister to do great things. Not so bad until he followed it up with, "I don't know what we'll do about my name, though." He still doesn't know I heard that, and I plan to keep it that way. Story 7. I had just moved into my dorm for my second year of college. My roommate was my best friend since 9th grade. My stuff hadn't arrived yet, and it was my time to register, so I asked him if I could use his computer. He said sure. I sat down, and he had AIM open to a conversation with another friend of ours. I didn't scroll up, but from what was just visible on screen, They were talking about how weird I was and how awful it would be rooming with me. I closed it so he wouldn't realize later I'd seen it, registered, and left. We still lived together that year, but we didn't hang out at all. We just cohabited. I never asked him to hang out as friends, he never asked me. Move-out day that year was the last time we spoke. That was over 10 years ago. We chatted every day for 6 years, then haven't spoken since. I still don't know if I did or said something to flip how he felt about me, or if he never really liked me to begin with. The possibility of the latter really fucks up your future friendships. Hell, the former does too, knowing apparently you're capable of unknowingly saying or doing something to throw away a 5-year friendship. Story 8. Everyone I'd invited to my first sleepover, laughing while reading my diary entries about how my dad had been abusing me. I'd left the room and one had gone snooping. It was worse when they wouldn't stop or give it back when I burst in and pleaded with them to, then everyone laughed even harder. That was the first and last time I wrote anything real like that in a diary. Story 9. I think this was 9th grade. A girl I had a crush on but hadn't really talked to at all was moving away. A few days before she moved, I overheard her saying, "Yeah, I'll miss pretty much everyone, but I'll tell you one person I won't miss. Sanskrit." That kind of sucked. Story 10. When my oldest sister died, my older sister was crying to my mother about how she felt alone. My mother was trying to reassure her and said, "You still have Vampid Vixen, though." But my sister said, "Who cares about her? I want our oldest sister back." I kinda get it. But this was around the same time my mother told me to my face that it should have been me who died instead, because I don't have a husband or kids like my oldest sister did. It seemed like absolutely no one wanted me in my family, and they all wished I could have switched places with the one we lost. People wonder why I'm depressed now. Edit. Wow, this blew up. Just wanted to add to everyone telling me not to speak to my mother anymore. Well, joke's on her. She died about a decade ago. My oldest sister died in 2008, my father in 2010, my mother in 2012. All of alcoholism. I'm just a bachelor orphan with no family now. Well, I have my older sister, but we're pretty estranged after her coke habit and money-stealing days, which is good and also bad, especially on Christmas. My mother never apologized to me and ended up getting even more abusive as time wore on. I eventually moved out of the house and went to live with an abusive boyfriend. Since 5 years ago, though, I've moved down south and after many trials and tribulations, many of them, I now have my own apartment and 2 beautiful cats. I'm completely alone other than that, though, which is even more depressing. But waking up to see my inbox explode and the gold, silver, and everyone wishing me well is really helping me to get through Christmas Day, the most depressing day of the year for me. Love to you all. Story 11. Walked up on a bunch of people who I thought were my friends talking about me saying I'm a loser and all this other. When they saw me, they fell silent, and I just walked away. That really hurt, but I got over it eventually. Edit. This is my highest voted comment by far and my first ever silver. Thank you all for the Christmas present. Edit 2. Gold as well. This is going to be a great Christmas. Story 12. HA. Just 5 minutes ago. My coworker told me my other coworker told her she'd quit immediately if I got hired onto the position they're currently at. Up until this point, I thought this girl and I were best friends. I even shared my Netflix password with her. That. Story 13. I went to school with a black eye and busted nose from my dear old dad. Child Services was called to do a home check. My dad and mom told the worker I'd done it to myself and I was suicidal, and that I'd written in my diary that I wanted to kill my little brother. I didn't even have a diary, and of all the people I was close to, my little brother was number 1. It got me a blacker eye and an involuntary stay in a locked ward. I bailed ASAP. Story 14. Background. I'm 12 years younger than my older sisters and I was unplanned. At age 7, I overheard my mom crying and saying I was the reason she didn't love my dad anymore. We were poor, why she isn't happy, and that she didn't want to be a mom anymore. She said she didn't know how to love someone who ruined her entire life. It was Christmas Eve and she was drunk talking to her best friend on the phone. It broke my heart spirit, and that was only the beginning of my awful childhood. Side note, I'm 29 now and moved out when I was 15 to protect myself. I have no contact with my parents and I'm fully aware it wasn't my fault I was born. But this memory still fucks me up. Edit. Good Lord, I did not expect this to blow up. The number of replies and private messages is truly touching. Thank you all so much for all the advice, support, and well wishes. I had no idea how cathartic openly talking about this bad memory would be. This is the first time I've ever mentioned it to anyone other than my sisters. To anyone who has gone through a similar situation, I feel for you and I'm here to chat anytime if you need a friendly ear. Honestly, I teared up sitting here with my pup reading these replies. Happy holidays. Enjoy these awesome pics of my rescue pup. https rsr imgur. Com a new FJD Christmas. Morning edit. Is this for real? Reddit Platinum, Silver and Gold? My first flare. Ever. 3. Thank you so much. You guys made my Christmas. I am blown away by the love and support I've received. The Reddit community is truly amazing. I'm currently trying to catch up to all the questions and messages. Hang in there, I'll try to reply to all of them. Cheers to a wonderful 2019 from Buttons and I. She hates the cold. She's a beach dog at heart. https wani imgur. Com tqxq ylu jpg. Story 15. My best friend's story, not mine, but figured it's worth sharing. We'll call her Carrie. She was born super premature, but she ended up completely fine. Like you would never know unless you saw the pictures of when she was born. Anyways, when she was around 8, she was at the top of the stairs, head peeking through the banister, secretly listening to her parents argue downstairs about how her dad was too hard on her brother for his grades. Her mom says, "Well, why aren't you that hard on Carrie? She doesn't get straight A's either." And her dad responds, "Carrie was born premature. She's probably retarded." Story 16. At my first internship, I overheard one of my supervisors ask the others if I was genuinely mentally handicapped. That hurt. Edit. Yes, she 100% meant what she said, but not in a compassionate way. She not only insulted me, but insulted the undergrad program I came from for sending her someone so incompetent. Nothing I did or didn't do justified her behavior. For example, she'd ask my opinion, then laugh in my face when I gave it. Or tell me a meeting was in one room when it was in another, and snap at me for not being in the right place. That was 10 years ago. Now I have a few degrees and am happily employed in the same field at a company that values me. Story 17. My father said he was too busy to come see us on Christmas. I told him my 2-year-old had picked presents out for him. I was also going to announce my second pregnancy. I was at my brother's house when my father called to offer my brother a ride to the airport Christmas morning. The airport is less than 5 minutes from our house. Story 18. Some girls thought I was asleep and they were trying to figure out what's wrong with me because I don't know how to socialize. Edit. Why does everyone assume I was faking being asleep? Just had my head down on my desk because I was low-key crying because the class made no sense. Story 19. I was 7 and basically poor trailer trash, but I asked my friend if I could stay the night. He called his mom to ask and I overheard her say, "Tell him no, I don't want roaches and lice." Really cut me deep. To this day, I have extreme anxiety about keeping my house clean. I couldn't help it, I was poor, and our roaches didn't pay rent. Story 20. I was in middle school and I overheard one of the girls doing one of those paper fortune-telling games with the boys and predicting who they were going to date. She opened up the paper and said, "Ugh, you're going to date Fox." And the guy just said, "Gross." Yep, found out that I wasn't really considered a catch. Edit. My name is not really Fox. My name here is Glimmer Fox, which is a name I invented for a character in a book I'm not writing. Story 21. While not a mean comment, this comment killed me. I have epilepsy, and I overheard my parents and neurologist talking about some of the effects if my seizures continued, which were basically becoming dependent for everything, short and long-term severe memory loss, and my IQ dropping a lot. It really hurt hearing that in a few years I would have gone from honors classes to special ed. Thankfully, my seizures have stopped, and the only lasting side effect is some memory loss, but man, that sent me spiraling for a long time. Story 22. My fiance's mother trying to convince her to break up with me because I was a lazy slob, as I was still recovering from injuries I sustained in Afghanistan that limited how active I could be. Edit. This blew up more than I was expecting. Thank you everyone for the kind words. My recovery went well and I'm much better now, both physically and mentally. And while her mother is still pretty cold in general, it doesn't bother me any. Happy holidays and Merry Christmas. Story 23. My dad's friend telling my dad that I ref 16 then, Was not that good looking. Asked him if he had saved up money to cover for that in dowry, money exchanged by parents to the groom at the time of marriages. Since that day, no one could convince me otherwise. Story 24. I was sick, septic, dying in the ER at the local hospital. I had tubes coming in and out of me, I had IV antibiotics. I didn't know if I was going to make it through the night. My family was at my house, and my niece who was with me called the house and put them on speaker. I heard my mother telling them all how she didn't care about me. Never had. She was only there to make sure my nephew was okay, that I got dirty diseases from being gay and sleeping with everyone in town. No, it wasn't an STD. No, I didn't get it from sleeping around. And I haven't bothered with her since. Story 25. I once overheard my friend's mom telling her son, who was my partner in our canoe trip, that the reason I was complaining about leg pain all day was that I was just wimpy and complain a lot. A few weeks later, I found out I had a bone tumor on my leg. So, I was pretty vilified by that, but then again, I did have cancer. All's well now, though. Edit. Thanks for the upvotes and Merry Christmas. Many people oofed when they heard the news, so there was no need to me to throw it in anybody's face, haha. Story 26. Took 18 hours to draw a painting for one. Gave it and felt happy, but soon I found she dumped it in the garbage. Edit. And to most of the question, how can anyone throw their own portrait painting gifted on the birthday the same day? It really depressed me till now. I recollected the painting from the garbage and took it home. Story 27. I phoned my friend and asked him if he wanted to hang out. I was maybe 10. He said he had to ask his mom. I heard him say, Lazarus 870 wants to do something, but I don't want to see him. I guess he either thought he muted the phone or did a shitty job at muffling it or something. Then he came back to the phone. Sorry, my mom said I can't. He was a terrible friend over the years. Story 28. My stepmom saying I was useless, heartless, abusive, leeching, etc. When I couldn't get my dad a birthday gift and instead painted something for him. I was like 16 at the time and had no money, couldn't get my mom to buy something for her ex-husband, and stepmom never wanted to get to know me. To my grandma. Actually pretty sad, as art was still a big deal to me at that age, and has changed how I've seen her as a person. Story 29. He acts like people. Actually like him. Someone needs to tell him. We only hang out with him because he will do almost anything you tell him to. He's a sad little puppet. Girl. I had a thing for. Granted, anytime someone said something starting with things like, wonder what would happen if, and $20 says you couldn't do, I would jump on it and do it, attempt it. Story 30. I saw two girls that I roomed with for a short while in college had been publicly posting on Facebook about how weird, annoying, and disrespectful I was. Their reasoning was that I was taking an 8:30 a.m. class, and only weirdos do that, and that I made a ton of noise every morning and disrupted their sleep. It hurt because I tried really hard to not be disruptive. I wouldn't let my alarm go off because I woke up naturally around the time it was scheduled and would just turn it off before it beeped. This was partially out of anxiety. I changed clothes in the bathroom, tiptoed everywhere, and wouldn't even eat or zip my backpack in the room because I wanted to be quiet. As far as I knew, neither of them woke up any of those mornings, and they never said anything to me about it. Or found this. Story 31. I went to school for a year for baking and pastry arts. There was a program-wide competition, and I was one of the only person in our section that wanted to compete. During an exam, I was waiting for some sugar to boil, so I'm standing by the front of the room at a burner, and the other chef in charge of the competition comes in to talk to our chef. They're whispering to each other for a few seconds, and then I clearly hear our chef say, well, it's not that she's bad. He shoulder checks, sees that I'm staring right at him, and they step out of the room. Looking back at it now, they were probably just surprised I had wanted to compete, since I'm definitely not the most outgoing person in the universe, but at the time I was devastated. Edit. Given all the really heavy stuff going on in this thread, I'm super lucky and aware that this is a very silly incident. Story 32. I overheard my dad telling my mom that he didn't expect my brother and I to get accepted at NDSU. A month ago, I flaunted that acceptance packet right in his face, but he's also told me that I probably won't amount to much or be a failure, as well as his plans for me, if such thing were to occur to cause him the least amount of embarrassment. Edit. Wow, I didn't expect this reaction and everyone here is so kind. Thanks, guys. Edit. Holy cannoli! Thanks for the gold and silver, guys. Story 33. Overhead. My mother telling the rest of my family that my baby died because of my negligence. My baby died of SIDS. Update. Wow, so much love. Thank you, internet strangers. For those asking, I did not have a relationship with my mother for a year. After that was overheard because she later said it to my face after multiple doctors, funeral directors and therapists explained how SIDS can't be intentionally caused. She knew what it was and still choose to believe it was my fault. This is also coming from the woman who told me I deserved to be raped when I was 18. So I wasn't too in shock. Absolutely disgusted and wanted nothing to do with her at the time. As the years have passed, this was September of 2014, it became painfully obvious that she's mentally unstable and can't be trusted to be left to her own devices. No confirmed drug abuse, but many signs. I like to think I'm an understanding and forgiving person, and while I haven't forgiven her for those comments, I do still love her and keep an eye on her. She actually currently lives with me, not the most fun, but I do believe if she did not reside with my husband and I, she'd be homeless and dead. While she may deserve this for the many awful things she's done in my childhood, she's still my mom. I don't want to be the kind of person she's become, so I tolerate her. It's not the best situation, but she doesn't have that much longer to live. Maybe 3 to 5 years? I waited 5 years to heal from my daughter's passing before getting pregnant again. That was an immediate shock, which was sadly followed by a miscarriage. Complete and utter disbelief in the universe. However, I'm currently in my second trimester with my rainbow baby. Husband and I are very excited, currently establishing strict boundaries for baby and my mother. We don't want our child exposed to my mother's toxicity. Thanks for listening and the wonderful support. Story 34. My father truly crying to a friend that he ruined the possibility to leave anything to his sons. Mauricio, that he wished he had listened to me about how to spend money. He's dying, likely gone in the next 2 to 5 years due to multiple strokes, diabetes, heart attack, and Agent Orange. I love him. And it fucking hurts to think all he cares about, even in all his suffering, is that he has nothing to leave us. Story 35. When I walked in on my now ex-boyfriend cracking a joke about to a group of guys, I very clearly remember it ending with, "She'd be great if she had any." Story 36. Not overheard but actually read in a file about me. My mother passed away suddenly, and I received a file from my father that she was meaning to give to me. It was a psychological profile, along with IT tests, personality tests, and other stuff. This wasn't a surprise to me since I'm autistic and have been in therapy as a child. There was a part, however, about my family and their trouble with living with me. Especially my brothers and my dad were having problems coping, and learning how my existing pained them was difficult. My parents got divorced basically because of me. My brothers were embarrassed by me. I'm doing better than expected. I was never supposed to be living in my own. There was talk about assisted living or even an institution, but somehow I managed to leave home as soon as I got 18. I got married, had kids, and even though I struggle a lot, I get by. I even have a good relationship with all my brothers, even though they still have trouble treating me as an adult. It's like always thinking everybody knows you're retarded except you, and then finding out it's true. Edit. Came back from Christmas dinner with a full inbox and a whole load of encouragement and warm responses. Thank you, guys. Yes, parts of my life. But other parts are awesome, and that keeps me going as it should. You all made me feel so much better, and I hope anyone reading this will realize that things will get better. Have a Merry Christmas. Story 37. My boss mocking me to my entire team. To be fair, I was being but it wasn't without reason. The product I was working on was not working as intended, so I kept getting farther and farther behind overall. When I brought up my concerns with production potentially contaminating my product and causing it to behave incorrectly, he told me the product wasn't the problem. Because I wasn't working fast enough. I got extremely frustrated because I had zero support on this, massive pressure, and needed to get this done, so with frustration tears running down my face, I snapped something along the lines of, "Okay, fine. I guess this is just how we do business now. I'll push it through." An hour later, I heard him behind the hoods in his most high-pitched, condescending, mocking, girl voice to everyone I work closely with. I'm the only female in on my team, repeating, "Okay, fine. I guess this is just how we do business now. I'll push it through." While he incorrectly recounted our conversation, making me look really bad. The worst part, though, there really was a problem with production. It was a huge one. and he took credit for discovering it. My team does not respect me anymore after that. I'm now just talked down to. It feels so horrible that I let my emotions get the better of me just once. And in the matter of 5 minutes, everyone's perception of me changed so drastically that I can't get anyone to take anything I say seriously. It has gotten so bad that I'm looking for another job and I'm willing to take significantly lower pay just to escape the emotional female ghost that now haunts me. Story 38. I'm probably blocking out the worst cases. I've learned it's pretty much human nature to talk trash about anyone who isn't present, so no reason to take it personally. But when you're a kid, it's a miserable experience. The worst case recently, I have a weird neurological problem in my shoulder and arm that no one has ever been able to diagnose. During an intense flare-up, I was referred to a physical therapist by a friend. The therapist saw me once and recommended surgery. I was very reluctant to take this advice, but I didn't say no. I called the surgeon she recommended. Turned out he wasn't accepting new cases. The second appointment there was a scheduling error, and I arrived 30 minutes too early. I sat in the front of the office and listened to the therapist making small talk with another patient about how her next patient was a psycho trying to fabricate some kind of malpractice case and refusing to comply with her advice. The receptionist was sitting right in front of me, also listening, but she didn't run back to stop it. So it went on for quite a while. If I had been a psycho trying to manufacture a legal case against her, she was kind enough to do all of the work for me. Story 39. I was in college. In the mobile, hanging there from a coat hanger, were photos of really creepy, skeevy guys, and also pictures of guys at our school that were generally known to be a little weird. I saw a picture of myself hanging from it too, and was devastated. These were girls I knew who were friends of mine. I wrote them a note confronting them about it, but did it in a nice way, telling them I was deeply hurt to see myself on there and apologizing if I ever offended them in any way. They were super embarrassed but also maturely apologetic and insisted they would prefer to be my friend. They also rightfully pointed out character traits in me that led them to want to put my picture there in the first place, and it gave me some good introspection to change myself for the better. This was 10 years ago and I still think about it. Still have the message history in Facebook from back then too. Edit. A lot of people are asking what the character traits were that they cited to me. Not gonna lie, some of this stuff makes me look bad. Some background. We were friendly because I was in a student organization club for stand-up comedy with them. I did stand-up at the time, and some of my abrasiveness spilled over into my real life, and I did say some shitty, untrue things. Here's her response. I changed their names to Girl A and Girl B. Girl A. Eric. You have every reason to be angry and hurt. I have no good excuse or explanation that would be sufficient, and both Girl B and I are truly, truly sorry for any pain or sadness we have caused. I feel even worse about this because I know I exploded at you recently and was making an effort to be nicer and more friendlier than I was in the past. I know that this has completely disqualified anything I have said or done in attempts to move forward. The only thing I can say, I guess, is that, yes, you have upset me in the past. That does not mean that I had any right to yell at you like I did that night, or do what we just did. However, sometimes I feel like you can be downright malicious to our friends. To try to explain why you've put me off so much, I guess it's because you will say bad, often untrue things about others to make yourself appear better. Some things I have heard you say about how you cheat on your girlfriend because she's fat, or telling your best friend he's not a good comedian when you're drunk, upsets me and turns me off to being your friend. But again, this is not the place for me to tell you what's wrong with you because it's me who really fucked up this time. I feel like a lot of this just sounds like contorted, generic bullshit that I wrote just to mull things over, but I promise you, it's an honest apology. The idea behind the mobile is, yes, guys who have creeped us out in the past. I guess because you've made some pretty overtly sexual remarks to me that I put you up there. If it helps, it had nothing to do with anything with physical appearance, meaning we didn't choose guys because they were ugly. Eric, I truly feel terrible. I feel horrible for constructing it to begin with, and then for you seeing it and feeling extremely hurt. I never, ever would want to make you or any other person cry. I really honor the maturity in which you took this. If I had seen something like this with my face on it, I would have blocked and defriended the person. You made a lot of effort to deal with our vast immaturity like an actual adult would. I don't know what else to say other. then the fact that I am completely embarrassed, ashamed, and sorry for my stupid actions, although I can't imagine how you feel. I promise you that Girl B and I are good people, but we do have our faults. You saw an uglier side of us, and I'm sorry you had to be involved. I absolutely do want to be your friend, and not just because I'm trying to be nice or sympathetic. In the past, when I felt like you weren't trying to overcompensate, we really got along well. I completely understand if you want nothing to do with me again, which makes me kick myself even more for killing our friendship. However, if you still feel like we can be friends, I am here 100%. If you'd like, we can grab dinner and talk about it some more. I'll pay. I'm really sorry, Eric. I hope you have it in you to forgive us. I really feel horrible for what I've done and the pain I've caused. Regards, Girl A. Story 40. Overheard my dad tell my mom that I am not capable enough to go through with my higher studies. One of the worst feelings when your parents don't have any faith on you. I have now graduated from a prestigious school and have 2 degrees to my name. Story 41. I was going through a pretty rough time and came home from college super depressed, and my brother told my mom I was a basket case. Kinda ironic, coming from him, but it still hurt. Story 42. I was a youth pastor. Overheard a parent of one of my youth talking with one of my coworkers about how overweight I was and how I didn't care about my life. They talked about I was setting a terrible example for the youth and how I just disregarded my own health. They said I was going to die by age 30. I'm 27. And then the mom said that the only reason she got onto SPRC, Staff Parish Relations Committee, the committee who does all the hiring at the church, just so she could get me fired because I was overweight. She said she manipulated the pastor to get elected to the committee just to make me sign a contract that if I didn't lose the weight, I would be fired. Needless to say, I don't work there anymore because I left on my own. Story 43. If another nurse had been taking care of him, he'd be alive right now. Spent the neater night running around trying to stabilize a patient, and my of a coworker sat there talking with my other of a coworker loudly talking about how incompetent I was the entire time. Neither of them lifted a finger to help. When the patient crashed, both of them magically disappeared, and it was nurses from the other side of the hallway who came to help with the code. They came after all was said and done, and then I overheard one of them say that. Then they proceeded to tell the unit manager I was incompetent and crying at the bedside. Thankfully, neither of them work on the unit anymore. Story 44. He's a little slow, but we love him anyway. I have a master's in biomedical engineering, and the person who said this was an inbred southern juggalo who didn't finish high school. True story, except maybe the inbred part. But TBF, this was an environment in which introverts and speech impediments didn't exist. I could totally see people thinking I'm weird or don't belong, but the word slow really got to me. Story 45. Heard 2 of my only friends at the time planning to go out later, making sure to ditch the redhead. Me. They had been my only friends since I could remember. After I let my mom know I was dating a girl she knew and really approved of, I heard my mom talking on the phone immediately to a friend of hers that she was disappointed in the girl's choice and hoped she would try dating other people. Heard a group of people I was out with talking about me in a pretty bad way and my best friend at the time joining in. All that was over a decade ago now. In college, I really focused on getting better socially, and I went to a faraway college where I could get a fresh start where I didn't know a single person, made a great career for myself, and moved to a town in a different state with a beautiful girl who I didn't tell my family about till we were engaged. And now I run a very successful business and am pretty well liked from what I can tell. Coming home for Christmas, though, is like I'm back in high school again. The way I'm treated here by even my own family is super toxic. It's no wonder I was so socially awkward as a kid.